The top 10 best WoW expansions. Number 10, Vanilla WoW. Now, people might argue this point on the list because technically, Vanilla WoW isn't an expansion. It's the base game. But really, when you say expansion and which one is the best, I doubt people would exclude vanilla from their minds. But there are some people who are sticklers to the rules and will be all like, but expansions are actually things that expand upon the base game. It's in their names. Vanilla can't possibly count in that. To which I would probably have to agree. But then what am I supposed to call the video then? Top 10 best periods of WoW? No, that's crazy. While it might be a technically correct term to use for a title, it doesn't really get the point across. Periods in WoW? You mean like the AQ Gate event? Or TOC? No, of course not. It means expansions, so that doesn't do. Maybe top 10 versions of WoW. No, that doesn't work either. Versions of WoW, you mean like including private servers? Because that's what I think of when I hear that title. There are plenty of private servers that do a whole bunch of weird shit with the game, and would technically be considered under the term of a version of WoW. So in order to get past that, the title would have to be Top 10 Versions of WoW Officially Released by Blizzard. But even that distinction raises more questions. Were there other versions of WoW released besides expansions by Blizzard? And then when they click on the video and find out it only talks about expansions, they'll be highly disappointed and think, why didn't you just call it the top 10 best expansions? To which I would reply, technically Vanilla WoW isn't an expansion, so I couldn't call the video that unless I wanted to exclude Vanilla WoW from the list, which would piss off a lot of people. And then they might say, why not just call it like the top 10 versions of WoW then? And then we'd get into another heated argument about why that name might cause confusions as well until it all goes full circle. So what about top 10 best WoW expansions including vanilla? That would please the literalist, except that would also be a terrible title. The title gives away an item on the list, which ruins the surprise. So people will be thinking the whole time they're watching, we know Vanilla WoW is going to be on the list. I wonder at which spot towards the top it will be. And then not be as interested in the rest of the video, expecting Vanilla WoW to show up at any moment, completely ruining the video watching experience. It's like reading a spoiler from a story and then waiting for it to show up. So, top 10 best WoW expansions it is. I can't think of any other title to convey the meaning of what the list is going to be about without causing all kinds of unneeded trouble or being accused of clickbaiting, since you get what you expect. Number 9, The Burning Crusade. I didn't actually play in TBC, so I have no fondness for it, but I hear that it was the best expansion from literally everyone on Reddit, so it must have been okay. Number 8, Hearthstone. This expansion completely changed the way you play the game, and even added an alternate timeline lore where the old gods took over Azeroth. You see, instead of making a character and going out and leveling up and getting gear, you play a children's card game, which, as a big fan of Yu-Gi-Oh!, makes more sense. Why aren't more conflicts in WoW solved through card games?
Haha, Thrall. I will take over this world and purge all other races that aren't orcs or goblins.
I will stop your madness right here, Garrosh. It's time to duel.
I summon Imzot's First Mate, which allows me to also summon Patches the Pirate directly from my deck, and equip a 1/3 Rusty Hook weapon. I then attack you in the face for 1 damage with my hook, and another 1 damage with Patches, and end my turn.
I summon a Flame Wreath Faceless.
You can't bring out a 7/7 minion on your first turn. That's cheating.
Screw the rules, I have money.
Number 7, Legion. Legion had a great start and everything, but patch 7.2 has too much content gated, and I want to do everything right now, so I have to give it a lower place on this list. Number 6, Mist of Pandaria. Yeah, Kung Fu Pandas and WoW? Wow, Blizzard, totally reaching from the bottom of the barrel here, huh? Already out of ideas? Yeah, no thanks. Number 5, the Cataclysm. This is the expansion that I personally played the most. I had finally graduated from high school towards the end of Wrath of the Lich King, which meant I actually had free time to play, since I didn't have to do sports anymore, and I also took a year off of school and only worked part-time job on the weekends. So I had all week to play as much WoW as I wanted, and I went super hardcore. That being said, only getting 5 new levels instead of 10 was a huge turnoff, and the reason I only put it at 5 on the list and not number 2. Number 3, Heroes of the Storm. World of Warcraft characters in a Dota 2 style game with no stupid ass last hitting mechanic? Yes, please. While I might not be the biggest fan of no items in the game, I do not miss last hitting. I remember when I very first played Dota 2, and my friend told me not to auto-attack the wave. I thought, why? Aren't we supposed to be pushing the tower? And he said he didn't want to fight under their tower, which made sense. And then he said to only hit mobs when they were low on health for the last hit. To which I asked, why? Because you get gold if you get the last hit. But what if you don't get the last hit and attacked it at least once beforehand? You get nothing, only the last hit matters. Oh, well that's retarded. No, you see, it adds skill and strategy to the game. Oh, I don't doubt that. But that's stupid skill and strategy. If you had to press a spacebar every 3 seconds to get bonus gold or XP, but miss pressing it sometimes during battles or while doing other important tasks, that would also technically add skill and strategy to the game. It wouldn't be fun and be really stupid and annoying, but it would add skill. Which is to say, just because something adds skill to the game doesn't mean it's needed, necessary, or good. So when HOTS came out, I abandoned Dota 2 to play it, even though I had invested about over 500 games into Dota 2. Not just because of the removal of last hitting, but mainly because matches would last over an hour on average, which was another big fault of the game. The early game lasts for almost 20 minutes before the real meat of the game happened. I was not a fan of losing games after an hour and a half of getting farmed by the enemy team's carry. But sometimes it wasn't so bad. Sometimes the games would be quick and end in 45 minutes. I also have tried out League of Legends, and I liked what I did play of it, but I didn't play enough of it to give any real criticisms of it in comparison to Dota 2. I just don't like the last hitting in that game either. Now, Heroes of the Storm technically has heroes from other Blizzard games besides WoW, but not too many. I'd say about half the roster is Warcraft heroes. Number 2, Wrath of the Lich King. Now, I'm not putting this expansion towards the top of the list because it was the expansion I started playing in, but because the Lich King was a pretty cool looking villain, and ICC was a sweet raid. Also because it was the expansion I started playing in, and I have a lot of nostalgia for that. Now it's time for number 1, the most best WoW expansion in the history of WoW's versions of the game. And that, of course, is Warlords of Draenor. Now, I know many people hated this expansion, but I have legitimate reasons for placing it at number 1. You see, garrisons were super great, and you even had your own personal mine and herb garden, which you didn't even need a gathering profession to gather. How great was that? Plus, you got to customize the garrison to your own liking with a variety of different buildings to be placed in one of 2 or 3 locations. Of course, you didn't get to choose what the building looked like, but you could choose where to place it in one of 3 fixed locations. Also, the raiding was great. Blackrock Foundry was probably one of the best raids in the entire game, with a plethora of unique and fun raid fights. I even mentioned 3 of the bosses in that raid in my top 10 most unique raid bosses video, with one of them even taking the number 1 spot. Also, the final fight of that instance is probably one of the best final boss fights in the game as well. Blackrock Foundry is a good example of how to make a great raid. Also, Hellfire Citadel was an excellent way to end off the raiding scene of the expansion. It was a giant raid with many tough bosses and a good final fight. The only real complaint about raiding was that it all ended too quickly, and the biggest criticism of the expansion was the lack of content. The content we did get was great, and I mean, we only went about like a year and a half without new content before Legion, which really isn't that bad when you think back on it.